I mean, I think there are parts of it that will potentially go some way, but ultimately it's very thin on the ground. And tomorrow, next month, next year, if this strategy is put in place, I have to say, I still think that street harassment will be rife. The cases of it being successfully managed by our criminal justice system will be exactly the same as they are today, and nothing will have changed in how rape cases are currently proceeding through the criminal justice system. So I have to say, I find it very disappointing.
I mean, there is to be a new national policing lead, a senior officer out there to ensure best practice and improve police responses to violence against women and girls. That seems like progress.
I mean, that's progress in the category of violence against women and girls, but of course we have a senior police officer who does that in domestic abuse. We have a senior police officer who does that in rape and sexual violence, both areas where cases are rising and charging and conviction is falling. And so, you know, I really want to see that position properly resourced, like I want to see those other senior police officers properly resourced so that they were actually able to do their jobs. But there's absolutely nothing in the strategy that does that. So whilst that is progress in the broader term of violence against women and girls, I'm not entirely sure what this person will be able to do, how they'll be the silver bullet where the commissioner for in sexual violence, rape cases, child sexual exploitation, in domestic abuse, all have their own police lead, and we're still failing on all of those areas.
I mean, many of the complaints and testimonies came in the wake, as I was just saying, of this horrendous case of Sarah Everard. And many of those testimonies spoke about the lack of confidence in the police and the response of the police. And I guess a senior police officer, you know, may try to change that.
I mean, I absolutely hope so. And I think that your average police officer cares about this. And I work with brilliant police officers in this space all the time, but they simply don't have the resources to be dealing with the number of cases that are in front of them about domestic abuse, let alone street harassment. And that's because they haven't been properly resourced, and violence against women and girls has never been made the priority by the government in order to make sure that the police are properly resourced to be able to do that.
I mean, are you calling for new laws? You mentioned street harassment, a specific law on street harassment, because, of course, there are already laws. I mean, it may be just that they're not being used effectively.
Well, currently there is a variety of different laws that you might reach the threshold of, or you might not. That when I said they're not being used successfully, they're not being used at all. And I speak as somebody who has taken harassment cases myself, and often what I'm told is, oh, you know, you might be able to get it in on this one particular law about online harassment, or you might be able to get it on, you know, whether you feel alarm and distress. And actually what tends to happen is that, and I'm a public figure, so imagine I'm getting a considerably better service, that it's far too confusing, and the average police officer sat in front of me doesn't actually know. And there needs to just be a very, very clear public law harassment charge that can be taken, whether that's taken as a civil issue, like they have trialled in France. They have a law in France which is called like horrible sexist, like horrible sexists. God love the French language, where there's a ticketing system that goes on when people are seen to be harassing and being misogynistic in the street. Now, nothing in this proposal is proposing that. It's just saying, oh, we're going to try and use our current laws better. Well, anyone who's ever brought a harassment charge will just know exactly how well that goes.
Yeah, but there are, I mean, the laws do exist. Section 5 of the Public Order Act, it covers, you know, offences involving abusive language, gestures, behaviour with intent to cause another harassment, alarm and distress. So, you know, my point is the laws are there. It's just maybe that they're not being used or not being used effectively.
Well, if that is the case, what I think needs to happen is there to be a specific law specifically for that the police can understand, that the public... How many people in my constituency think you know that section of the Section 5 of the Public Order Act and know that that's what they've got to ask for? The point is it's too confusing at the moment, and it needs to... And yeah, OK, the government can say, oh, the laws already exist. Watch in the next 10 years how that makes absolutely no difference.
And I suppose the kind of baseline here is that what needs to change is behavioural, behavioural change of some men. I mean, this talks about it, this strategy talks about that. Well, but how do you bring that about?
Well, you need proper education from a very early age about gendered attitudes, misogyny, consent, and that needs to be happening in schools. Teachers need to be properly trained in how to do it, as we've seen from recent Ofsted reports that say it's sort of institutionalised sexual harassment happening in schools. Teachers need training, but they also need the resources to bring in specialist agencies. And what is completely lacking from this strategy is a single penny piece of extra money for the specialist agencies who are going to be expected to deliver this strategy, and that's simply the problem. So we need public awareness raising campaigns and all of that at every stage in life to tell people what they should and shouldn't be saying, because for too many women they are on the wrong end of that, and lots of men tell me that they don't know what to do when they see this sort of thing happening. So we need proper, robust education from a very early age and long into life.
Yeah, OK, look, we've got 30 seconds left. What is there not in this strategy that you would have liked to have seen in the strategy?
Well, for a start off, there is absolutely nothing about adult sexual exploitation. There's not a single mention of it, apart from one thing that says online they'll try and make porn companies be better on extra exploitation voluntarily. So there is nothing for victims who are being, very, very vulnerable people suffering with terrible issues who are being sexually exploited as adults, not one single thing.